Good morning, friends.
Good morning, and welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm Carolyn Morrissey, your worship associate, and I'm glad to see you here this morning. Please know that whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you're from, whatever your beliefs, life circumstances, gender identity, or immigration status, you are welcome here.
I am your intern minister, Christin Green, and I also welcome you to Cedar Lane. Is there anyone new to Cedar Lane with us this morning? If you are new, please raise your hand so we might recognize you and bring you a small gift as a welcome to our community. Also, it is 11 a.m. We are streaming live online, and among some of our special viewers are my own parents streaming from home today. My mother, thank you, yes, let's wave. My mother is recovering from surgery, and my other mother is her caregiver, so we wish them well, and all the other people watching from all around the world. We're glad that you're with us this morning.
All are invited to stay after the service to enjoy coffee and conversation. If our guests choose to use a yellow mug, our members and friends will be sure to greet you. In this caring community, the pastoral visitors are an extension of the ministry team. Betsy Binks is today's pastoral visitor. She'll be available after the service at the Joys and Sorrows candle table. Please reach out to her if you'd like support.
Gail Riley, our board president, would like to say a few words. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. So if you missed today's Up Close and Personal with the board, you missed a wonderful celebration. I hope some of you were able to join us for cake as we celebrated sharing our beloved community and exploring the connections that many of us have to our community. And we know that for Cedar Lane to work, for Cedar Lane to thrive, that we depend on not only our dedicated and very capable staff, but also the many volunteers who help us sustain this wonderful place. And so at this point in time, I'm not just here to tell you that you missed cake, but we would also like to acknowledge and thank those folks who have been so involved for over a year on our combined campaign, our capital campaign, that will allow us to update this beautiful building and also to make it ADA compliant, which is really important for all of us. So I would first of all like to introduce our co-chairs, whom you probably know at this point in time, Don Bliss and Regina Dull. Thank you so much for your incredible leadership. And I would ask you to remain standing, and we'll ask other groups to rise if you will, and then the rest of the congregation to kind of hold your applause until everyone that has been involved is standing. So we also had the Capital Asset Planning Committee, which played a very important role and has now morphed into the Renovation Task Force. So if there are any members here from that group, if you would stand. Along with them, the steering committee for the combined campaign. We had 16 members on that steering committee. We also had many people who volunteered and who were stewards, who were visitors, who went out and had visits with members of our congregation, one-on-one visits, and these were the kinds of connections that we were actually celebrating between services. So if you were involved in that, or if you made phone calls, or were involved basically in any way, we know how important it is for all of us to be involved with Cedar Lane to make it the wonderful, thriving community that it is. So thank you very much. And we would also actually like to recognize members of this year's generosity team, if there are others here. So we have the continuity from this past year to this year, as we are right now in the middle of our annual fund. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Gail. Yes, we are gathered in beloved community this morning, and there are other opportunities throughout the week. One is this evening, this afternoon, 4 o'clock, there's a free concert entitled Hopeful Music in Troubled Times. I think we are all in need of hope in troubled times, and music is such a universal language. We hope that you'll join us back this afternoon for a very special concert. We also are welcoming back our travelers that have been in India. They are traveling back this evening, so keep them in your thoughts, in your good vibes, in your prayers, however you choose to hold them in your hearts. They will be back with us very soon. Yes, 2 of them are back already. So we look forward to hearing about that journey and those stories. In the spirit of community, would you rise and greet someone next to you? While you're settling back into your seats, would you turn in your gray hymnals to number 16? You will remain seated as we sing.
As Kathleen Reedy comes forward to light the chalice, symbol of our faith and our gathered community, please rise in body and or in spirit to speak in unison the words printed in your order of celebration. We light our flaming chalice with audacious hope, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold suppression. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it signal our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals.
Good morning. My name is Nate Hultman, and I've been coming to Cedar Lane with my family for a bit over 10 years now. That family includes my wife, Ellen Berg, and our kids, Linnea and Silas, who, by the way, are our ministerial ambassadors, having sung in the children's and youth choirs since they were old enough to do so. So you have seen them up here much more than you've seen me. One of the factors that first brought us here was the religious education program. Our kids were young at the time, roughly ages 5 and 3, and what particularly attracted us initially was the thoughtful and carefully developed curriculum here. Now, taking that step to start up here, particularly focused on the religious education part, was a bit of a stretch for me. In fact, if you ask my wife, you might even hear that I was, shall we say, a bit skeptical of the entire proposition. I had myself grown up in a Midwestern Lutheran church and had gone to an even more Midwestern German Lutheran school all the way from pre-kindergarten through 8th grade, which every day included a full class period of what one might call a different kind of religious education. For example, on the one hand, I can recite, maybe a bit rustily, many sternly catechismic passages from Martin Luther himself, telling us what we shall believe or how we ought to interpret the 10 Commandments in our daily lives. Or alternately, in an impressive misallocation of neural capacity, I can still almost inhumanly rapidly recite all of the books of the Old Testament, or even sing you the books of the New Testament to a jaunty sing-song tune. Every Monday, the teachers would take attendance and ask whether we attended church, Sunday school, both, or none. And public woe to him or her who was forced to blurt out none, particularly the repeat offenders. Of course, it was not completely without benefits. I can sort of mumble several Christmas carols in German, and even weirder, several Beatles songs in German. But that was from another class, and I must, alas, save that story for another time. So I hope you can realize how much of a leap it was to subject my children to any religious education which seemed at the time to be a highly suspect enterprise. But of course, as you see, here I still stand. And I stand here proudly. You might remember I mentioned we've been coming here for about 10 years, and during that time, all 4 of us have participated in diverse ways in the music program, RE, and others. And at the same time, we have seen Cedar Lane grow in many ways, even as we have also grown and integrated more deeply into the community here. And that is the point. While we came for RE, it has been wonderful to see Cedar Lane grow into a more diverse community and develop a more expansive mission. We have built together a new focus, a new energy, and new growth, which is grounded in our community, but also benefits from our remarkable team of leaders and staff here at Cedar Lane. From our thoughtful and engaged ministers, to our music program and talented musicians, to our membership, youth, and lifespan education leaders, committees, and lay leaders, all supporting our community in diverse ways, each of them bringing their own gifts, but also working as a group to get us going, to do more with what we have, both internally here and outside in our world. We all know that Cedar Lane is a place where love works. This, to me, is probably the single biggest reason I feel at home here. Love, of course, is a feeling. It's mystical and spiritual, yes. It's thoughtful and introspective. But love is also showing up. It's also working in the world to make things better when there is a need. It's realizing that we've got the dream team here already to do this work, and it is us. So it was a bit over a year ago when I reflected on these things, and that Christmas Eve, the kids were singing in the choir and also playing some instrumental music, and I realized, well, if that isn't membership, I don't know what is. And so after 9 years of getting over my various hang-ups, I signed the membership book. So I stand here with you because the thing I like best about Cedar Lane is that we show up. Thank you.
your voice be heard. Sing like the wings of a bird, with joy in every word. Come let us sing. Oh, sing. Come let joy be young. Come let us sing. Let your voice be heard. Like the wings of a bird, with joy in every word. Come let us sing. Oh, sing.
Many times I have wandered as a child, but the music plays what does it set me free. Now that I'm grown, I finally realize that music is freedom and it's both in me. Freedom and your voice be strong, and when the spirit songs, when sound the joy beyond.
Come let us sing.
Come let your voice be heard, take place with things of the Lord, sing every word. Come let us sing.
Many times I have wandered as a child, when music plays, why does it set me free? Now that I'm grown, I finally realize that music is freedom and they're both in me. Oh, God set me free. Come let us sing. Come let your voice be heard, like the wings of a bird, with joy in every word. Come let us sing. Let us sing. Music is freedom, and freedom is music, and music is freedom. Sing, 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 sing. Music is freedom, freedom for you and me. 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 Now we are free.
Let us sing.
Come let your voice be heard, like the wings of a bird, with joy in every word. Come let us sing.
Let us sing.
Come let your voice be heard, come hear the singing and the song, come shout the joy of God. Come let your voice be heard, like the wings of a bird, with joy in every word. Come let us sing.
Each time we gather for worship, we gather not for our needs alone, but to bear witness to the joys, sorrows, and milestones that unfold in all of our lives, and to serve as companions to one another throughout these profound journeys of faith. We gather in this space made holy by our presence to meet the wonders and challenges life offers to us all. If you are grieving the loss of a loved one, if you live with or care for someone with grief or chronic pain, if parenting is your spiritual practice, if you're struggling with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illness or addictions, if you have suffered abuse or injustice, we hold all of you in our hearts. This has been a week filled with joy and sorrow for our Cedar Lane community. Regina Chiumata, a member and choir member, and Chuck Fontana, a member, are thrilled to announce the birth of their healthy boy, Calgero Cyril Aurelius Fontana. Please lend a hand to this new family by supporting them with a meal. See your e-news or the website to register. Choir member Jenny Lynn Moyer gave birth to Vaughn Della Rose Swindler on February 23rd. Mother, son, and daughter are doing fine. I'm sorry. Yes. Carol and Edgar Berteau are delighted to announce the birth of their first grandchild, Walter Brian Berteau, to their daughter Catherine on February 5th. Both mom and baby are doing very well, and proud grandparents are over the moon. Longtime member Coralie Adler died on Friday afternoon. A memorial service will be announced. We mourn the loss of Diane Wallemeyer and hold her children in our hearts. No information about a service is available yet. Phil Clausen, a longtime member of Cedar Lane, passed Saturday from congestive heart failure. We hold his wife, Roseanne Clausen, and their family and friends in our hearts as we also mourn the loss. Memorial service details are not announced yet. Our hearts are with those in Venezuela who are facing hunger, violence, and illness daily. We also mourn over 100 victims of fire in Bangladesh this week. May these friends of ours, our companions in the world, and all that lives unspoken in our hearts be held in the embrace of prayer and by a love that will not let us go.
I invite you all into a time of meditation and prayer. I invite you to find your breath, find your pulse, find your stillness. As you breathe and feel your physical body in this physical space, imagine in your mind's eye a well at your feet with gentle, cool water. A well that is swirling gently and rising ever so gently within your spirit. Imagine as you breathe in and out and center yourself here, that the well rises, nourishing your spirit with cool, gentle, graceful waters. Our hearts are heavy. Our spirits rejoice and our spirits ache. We are confronted with the best and the worst of humanity. The interconnectedness of it all confuses us, and yet we come together. We come together to remember the inherent worth and dignity that we all possess, the inherent worth and dignity of those who oppress us. We hold these conflicted humanities with tenderness and compassion and a craving for justice. As you breathe in, I invite you to breathe in peace. And as you breathe out love. As we experience this sacred silence together, for those who are mourning a loss or commemorating a loss, you're invited to stand and be held in this sacred silence by your community. may all feel held within this warm community. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen. As an icebreaker exercise during my orientation at Wesley Theological Seminary, the Associate Dean of Community Life asked us to introduce ourselves using our name, where we're from, and a wild card question, which I love. What is one thing you will never do? So my classmates began to stand and introduce themselves one by one. Someone said, "I will never back down from my convictions," which is aspirational at the beginning of seminary, I think. Someone else said, "I will never hold a snake." And I understand that one. I think I'm also in that camp. But I was feeling a little confessional, and I said, "My name is Christin Green. I'm from Liberty, Missouri. And I will never throw away a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon." Now, I'm glad most of you are laughing. There were some people who laughed, some people who groaned. I think the associate dean said, "You and my wife." So if you aren't familiar with Bed Bath & Beyond, it's a wonderful store with many, many things. And they have coupons they send out in the mail frequently. And these coupons are typically 20% off, but they never actually expire. They have dates on them, but those dates, I have a secret for you, those dates are a decoy. I have never seen a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon refused at the checkout line, and I've witnessed lots of them. So some of these coupons are $5 off and 20% off, and they come in the mail frequently, and they just keep piling up, but they don't expire. So I keep them all in this file on the wall in my kitchen. And of course, you don't always need to go to Bed Bath & Beyond, but when you do go, you want to take as many coupons with you because another secret, you can use more than one coupon when you're checking out. These are important things to learn from the pulpit, I feel. They can help you. It's a running joke in my family that I can't let go of them. And so the other day, I got a call from my parents, and I pick up the phone, and one of them says, "Well, we've done our mitzvah for the day." That means a good deed. And I say, "Oh, what have you two been up to?" And Mom chimes in, because I can hear I am on Bluetooth in the car. "Oh, I gave out the Bed Bath & Beyond coupons to all the people in line at the store." And Nan says, "Oh, you know your mother." And the other one keeps going, "Well, you know I brought too many, and I just noticed that the other people didn't seem to have any. So I started asking them if they needed one, and I told them they should never pay full price for anything at Bed Bath & Beyond." Yeah, so here I am hoarding my coupons in an expanding file in my kitchen, and my saint of a mother is handing them out to those in need in line. And as funny as it was really kind of humbling. What an easy thing to share. It costs nothing. They come in your mailbox. It's purely an act of kindness. It doesn't even really count as charity, really just kindness. So it came from her noticing the excess. I've noticed the excess in my kitchen. I've actually had to move my takeout menus to a different file. But she also noticed the lack. You know, maybe if I had been standing in line, my head would have been buried in my cell phone, looking at social media, not engaging with the other people around me, the other people that had a need. She noticed this, she addressed it. And she addressed it by using an act of kindness that made that excess into abundance because it was worth something to someone. It wasn't just paper piling up, it was valuable. So the more I thought about this process of noticing the abundance, noticing the scarcity, and then using kindness and compassion to balance that relationship, the process really became about the recognition of the concept of enough. We're at constant odds with that word, enough. What is enough? And we have an awfully specific expectation for such an arbitrary concept. How much is enough? Who says how much is enough? Who decides if I am enough? We may not ask these questions out loud, but I know I wonder them all the time. Orioki in Japanese means a vessel containing just enough. This term, orioki, refers to the nested bowls and utensils that are used in this ritual meal process in Zen Buddhist monasteries. It's practiced because it's believed that it synchronizes the body and the mind through bringing mindfulness to eating. So each person at the table has their own set of bowls and utensils wrapped in a cloth. It's their own little oryoki set. And they unwrap the cloth and they take out their bowls and their utensils. And everyone has their place setting. And then the food comes down from the end of the table. And one by one, you serve your neighbor. And your neighbor gestures when they would like more and when they've had enough. Just enough. And it's important to gesture when you've been served enough, because too little and you'll go hungry, and too much and you'll be overfull. But there's no waste in oryoki. There's no compost bins, there's no trash, there's no recycling. It's all contained. So when the meal is completed, when you've had just enough to fulfill you, a bowl of warm water is passed down in the same way that the food is. And each person serves the other just enough water, and they gesture again. I've had just enough water to rinse the bowl and drink it, and then place the bowls back into this cozy oryoki set. So you have to make sure that you don't get too much water that you can't fully drink it, because there's no waste. You rinse, drink, wipe, and nest the bowls back together. And this practice of mindful eating requires attention to noticing the abundance and the scarcity and the kindness in serving. You might even say that you do yourself a kindness when you gesture for only as much as you need. I was at a pastoral care workshop here yesterday, and one of the ministers reminded us, it might have been Reverend Katie, I think it was. She sounds like she would say something like this. She said, saying no to one request for your time when you've had enough demands on your time is actually saying yes to yourself. So you're doing yourself a kindness. You're acting on kindness as a principle. You're incorporating love into your practice of mindful eating, into your practice of mindfully allowing yourself to engage with your community. This is all about love and kindness. So back to that oryoki. How do they remember what they're practicing? The Zen Buddhists who participate in this ritual meal also recite chants throughout the meal. And during the cleaning of the bowls in particular, they chant, "The water with which I wash these bowls tastes like ambrosia," meaning it has the quality to quench the thirst of even the gods. Their dishwater is delicious and abundant. It points us toward gratitude and abundance and enough. So what is holding our recognition of enough hostage? I realized after learning about oryoki that I need a spiritual practice like this to help me recognize and appreciate the abundance in my life. Mindful eating is a start, and giving out Bed Bath & Beyond coupons is on my list too. Theologian Henry Nouwen wrote, "The agenda of our world, the issues and items that fill newspapers and newscasts, are the agenda of fear and power. What am I going to do if I do not find a spouse, a house, a friend, a benefactor? What am I going to do if they fire me, if I get sick, if I'm in an accident, if I lose my friends? What if my marriage doesn't work, or if a war breaks out?" But here's the spiritual truth, he says, about these fearful questions. They never lead to love-filled answers. Because underneath every fearful question, Many other fearful questions are hidden. Our anxiety about the concept of enough is held hostage by fear. Atelophobia is the fear of imperfection, the fear of not being good enough. The root of the word, ateles, comes from the Greek word that means imperfect or incomplete, not enough, essentially. So fear surrounding enough blocks off that abundance. Nouwen also wrote, "When fear pervades our lives, we are living in the house of fear. From where we look out on the world, what we see from that perch of fear is alienation and scarcity. Our perception of abundance is dammed up by fear. It's held back, walled off, inaccessible, and often untapped. We can't see clearly enough through the lens of our fear without practice. But what do we practice? We cannot simply stop being afraid. No, it's better to replace that energy with another kind of energy. Moving from the house of fear to the house of kindness, love, and compassion takes gradual steps. But that is really what unlocks the potential of abundance, is love. How many recognize these lines of poetry? Though I may speak with bravest fire, and have the gift to all inspire, and have not love, my words are vain, as sounding brass and hopeless gain. Though I may give all I possess, and striving so my love profess, but be not given by love within, the prophet soon turns strangely thin. Come, Spirit, come, our hearts control. Our spirits long to be made whole. Let inward love guide every deed. By this we worship and are freed. This poetry is adapted from Christian scripture. In 1 Corinthians 13, when Paul is writing to the new developing churches in Corinth about getting along with one another. They're wrestling with issues that plague churches in all denominations. What if we lose what we have when we share and we don't have enough? Does that sound familiar? That anxiety. What if we lose what we have when we share and we don't have enough? Let inward love guide every deed. This passage in 1 Corinthians is often labeled the gift of love. And Paul also talks about attributes of perfect, maybe even divine love in this passage. Love is patient, love is kind. You might recognize those words from a wedding or a celebration of romantic love, but he was actually talking to organizations trying to work together. So what is that connection between romantic and organizational love? Love rejoices in the truth, he writes. But what is truth? We like to ask that question a lot in Unitarian Universalism. What is truth? What is the truth about our fear? I think is a better question. Could it be false expectations appearing real? How will we know? Across faith traditions, I challenge you to find a sacred text that does not echo this message in response to the question, how will we know what is enough? Love will guide us. Love guides us to noticing noticing the abundance and the scarcity. Compassion asks us to go where it hurts, to enter the places of pain, to share in brokenness, fear, confusion, and anguish. Compassion challenges us to cry out with those in misery, to mourn with those who are lonely, to weep with those in tears. Compassion requires us to be weak with the weak, vulnerable with the vulnerable, and powerless with the powerless. Compassion means full immersion in the condition of being human. So here we are, fully immersed in this human experience with one another, wrestling with our own perceptions and confusions about what is enough, tempering our fears with love, shaping our ability to recognize abundance. Let love guide you, friends. Guide you to noticing the abundance, noticing the scarcity, and moving very gently, just as you are, from the house of fear to the house of love, knowing that you are enough. Blessed be, may it be so, and amen. Would you turn in your hymnals to number 34? We will rise in body and or in spirit and sing the poetry that I read to you earlier, though I may speak with bravest fire. Please rise in body or in spirit.
For the gifts which we are, and for the gifts which we bring and share to make this a beloved community, may we be truly grateful. May we share our gifts to create more justice, more peace, more love in the world.
If here you have found freedom, take it with you into the world. If you have found comfort here, go and share it with others. If you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you have known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. And if you have known love, use it to shape the way you walk, the way you touch one another, the way you speak to one another. May it guide you on your path. Will you turn in your hymnals to 131 and sing with us, "Love will guide us on our way."